Hi there, and welcome to today's video. For today's video, we're going to finish building the Snowpeak ruins. So we're going to start off right where we left off on last week's video. Now, I don't know what you would call this, whether you would say it's a mansion, or a keep, or just a very big house. This actually took me a lot longer than I thought it would after all. So when last week's video was uploaded, I was already more than halfway through on the build. I had basically finished referencing the game for the build, and we'll get to that in a minute. But after that, it still took me another probably 3 hours on top of that. So all in all, this build took around 8 hours, counting the time to go back and reference the pictures and all that. Then again, I know I'm not the fastest when it comes to building in The Sims, but that was a long build. I can see why not a lot of people build mansions or very big houses for that matter. Now, it's not the first time I've attempted to build something to this scale, but it's the first time I've actually finished the whole build. Now, I don't think we went into it very much last week, but this is actually built on a 50 by 50 lot. So this is where Magnolia Blossoms was on before. So I believe this is the only 50 by 50 lot available in base game. I believe the other ones were 50 by 40, and this probably could have been built on a 50 by 40. It's not as wide as I was expecting, but it took the whole length of the lot. So it is definitely a 50 by something. That something could probably be a 40. I think a 30 might be a bit too small though. So looking at the build, I think it was pretty loyal to what you could find in Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Because here's the thing, you have to keep in mind that this whole build is just base game. There are no packs. The only one that I used at the end of the day was a holiday pack, which is the free pack that you can get for Sims, and it was only for a rug. So you can completely make this work without that, and there are no debug items either. This is all from the build by catalog. So all of these items you can get without any issues, but like most of my other builds, you will need to have move objects on if you want to place this down. There are a lot of items that probably shouldn't fit, but then they do fit just because you have move objects on. Now, as we go through the build, you're going to see mostly going room by room, and there weren't a lot of pictures that I could actually reference this time around. I was actually going through a video of someone else playing the game as I was building this. I wasn't playing it myself because to get to this particular place and go through all the build, it was going to be quite annoying, so the video actually worked out a lot better. With that being said though, there's certain areas that you can only see from afar and you don't get to them until later in the game, or there are certain areas that are completely destroyed, for example. So I took a lot of creative liberty in this game. There were also sections that they weren't going to work exactly how you wanted them to in The Sims, just because The Sims at the end of the day is a grid system. So there were a lot of areas, for example, if we go back to when I was building the entryway, I ended up putting a couple rooms to the sides after the statues. And the whole reason for that was that area looked very different when you're playing the game, but you couldn't really recreate it. So I took a lot of creative liberties when it comes to fixing some areas or putting something else in an area where it was going to be completely unbuildable in The Sims. So another example of that as we'll go along will be a lot of the bathrooms. In a Zelda dungeon, you clearly don't need a bathroom, but I did want to make this usable for Sims, and there are plenty of bathrooms. So what I did here in the entryway, there's going to be 2 rooms, which I originally intended to be something like a bathroom and then maybe something else. Those actually end up being rooms for the quote-unquote help. I was making them bathrooms and then I thought it looked weird, and then I kind of started playing around thinking, could I actually fit a bed in there? And then it did fit. So if you want to have a butler in The Sims, that could be their area, or you could just straight up give them a room. There's something like 6 rooms, counting the 2 for the, again, quote-unquote help. And butlers are something you can get in The Sims. So you could always play around with that and actually make it a usable room. Or you could just go ahead and put whatever other thing you wanted in there. Because here is another thing that happened as I was doing the build. When I was first doing it, I was going through the video and seeing what they had in the, I'm gonna call it a mansion, in-game. Now in the mansion, clearly this is a place where there's not going to be technology. So everything was more old school, let's say. So I decided to go for that. There are sconces on the wall, which aren't something that you can use without power, but I thought that was passable, and a giant TV I did not think was possible. So there are no TVs, no computers, no laptops, no tablets. There's nothing like that. There's no pot lights even. And I actually rather enjoyed building it that way because I felt like it gave the home a bit more of the character that should have been there in the game. So with this being base game, there is no winter pack or snow pack or snow world or anything like that where I could have built it. So this is more what I believe Snowpeak Ruins would have looked in its prime and without it being winter. That's why there's a lot of rooms where it seems like, well, I'm not sure what would have been in here, but I think it might have been this or that. So the only thing that I actually went back and put in, even though it's electronic, was actually fire alarms and the sprinkler system. The reason I ended up doing that though was after I was done with the build, I went back and I play tested it, which most of it does work. Only one of the front rooms didn't really seem to work, and it seemed to be the toilet placement, but it was in the exact same place as the other one. Long story short, I play tested it, and the first thing your Sims are going to want to do is turn on every single fireplace. I don't know why Sims love turning on fireplaces so much, but they do. So that is the only thing besides the lights that I would say I added, and it's mostly for the safety of your Sims and the build more than anything else. Besides a few things here and there that I was adding as I was going through the video, so things like the courtyard and things like the dining room, most of it is just based on what was seen. So a lot of what you see as you're going through the game is weapons and storage and basically empty rooms, because a lot of them are rooms where you're just going to have to figure out a puzzle or fight a mini boss or stuff like that. So that's why as we're building, you're going to see a lot of the rooms be very empty. Even the window placement, I tried to limit it to whatever I saw in game. And after that, we get up to the boss room, which is going to be the second floor on the tower. After the boss room, that's basically where my creative liberty comes in on where to put certain things where the bedrooms are going to go, where the bathrooms are going to go. And it was a bit awkward working around that because I also didn't add doors unless it was to get to a bathroom, for example, or unless it was a room that I purposely divided. So there were a lot of rooms where all of a sudden you had 3 doors. And the whole reason why this happened is because, again, this is a game and there are certain areas that you can access at the beginning and certain areas that you can't access until the end. So you need to get keys and you need to do things before you're able to get to those rooms. Clearly, that is not the case in Sims. So I tried to keep that in mind when looking at where to put the rooms. And you're going to see me building a bedroom on a room that anyone can access from the top room. So there's a lot of rooms where they're open to above and there's a bit of a walkway on top. I didn't realize this at first when I was building that big room. It was going to originally be 5 of the big rooms and 2 of the little rooms. And once I realized that, it was actually even a pretty cool room because it had 2 separate bathrooms. And I was thinking, how many people would actually like having a completely separate bathroom than their partner? But after I realized that this was actually open to above, I completely got rid of that room and I ended up making it into a bit of a dance hall. That's all the way around the end of the video. And there were a lot of rooms like that that were open to above or that were very little that I was just thinking, what would I even do here? A lot of the sitting areas were also determined by the game itself, which when I was building it, I was thinking, yeah, that makes sense. If I had to walk this distance just to get from my bedroom to the kitchen, I would probably need to sit down for a couple minutes as well. So all in all, even though this was a gigantic build, even though it took me literal hours to build, I enjoyed every single second of it. Even by the end of it, I was surprised by the sheer amount of money this house cost. I believe without the lot, it's close to 700,000 simoleons. And that just made me realize how difficult it actually is to build $1 million lot in The Sims. It's nearly impossible if you wouldn't use a lot of these expensive items. And if I were to go back and make this into $1 million build, I think I could definitely pull it off. There are a lot of rooms where I could have added gigantic TVs and upped the price, for example. Or even a lot of rooms where I could have added a lot more statues because they're worth nearly 10k. So all in all, I had a lot of fun with this one, and I'm actually very glad that I decided not just to build it, but to leave it for the 1 year anniversary. I definitely think that a build like this deserves to be for a special occasion, and I think this fits the bill. I actually even went back and played in this house for a bit, and I had to start adding a lot of Sims to my household because I could not find them for the life of me. It is so big. Now, where that fits in for an actual playthrough or someone that just wants to download this and play, I would just say try not to have too many Sims being invited without your knowledge. You're probably going to lose them in this house. Besides not having any computers or any laptops or any TVs or anything like that, I actually think there was a lot to do around this build. So, for example, there were a few pianos, there were a few chessboards, there were quite a few bookshelves. I think what really jacked up the price in this build were bookshelves being absolutely everywhere. But what can I say? They're a good space filler. And if you look at how a building like this would have been back in the day, I really do think there would have been books literally all over the place. So if you wanted to do something like modernize this place a bit and add TVs or add more activities, the courtyard is actually quite a bit bigger than you would expect, and the fountain that is outside is actually a pool. Here's the thing about this build. It's first of all elevated, so it can look a bit more like the mountain it's supposed to be on, but then everything works around platforms as well. So you can't put a fountain on a platform, but you can put a pool on a platform. So it was a bit wonky for sure, but it worked. And if you really wanted to, you could turn that into a full-on pool. But anyways, we are getting close to the end of the video, and I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this video. If you've been here for the whole year that I've been doing videos, thank you so much. I don't plan to stop making them anytime soon, but the frequency might go down. I'm not too sure at this time. What I can tell you though is I already have a video ready for next week because it was the one that was originally going to be last week. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great weekend!